Hi everyone, my name is Chris Norville. I'm a solutions architect with Red Hat. Welcome back to this four-part video series with IBM Turbonomic and Ansible automation platform. This is video 3 where we're going to be configuring Turbonomic. But just as a quick recap, what we've done so far is we've configured and set up our event-driven Ansible controller, and we've activated a rulebook listening for incoming events from Turbonomic. We're going to set up Turbonomic in this video. In video 2, we set up our Ansible controller. We created a project, we imported our playbooks, and we got it ready to go for EDA to kick off a playbook on our Ansible controller. In this video, we're going to be configuring Turbonomic. Now, as we stated before, Turbonomic is an application resource monitor. We're going to configure that. We're going to get it ready to send the webhook over to EDA. But first, we have to do some prep work. So let's go take a look at the dashboard. So here we are at our Turbonomic dashboard. It's kind of a busy screen, may take some getting used to, but what Turbonomic is going to do is it's going to provide recommendations. It's going to provide recommendations based on performance and cost savings across your enterprise. Where we see a lot of interest in this is it can make recommendations in the public cloud. Costing the public cloud can be difficult to control. As far as, are you running efficiently? Can you save money? For a human to do this, it would be a monumental effort. It would require a lot of vigilant effort to go out there and figure out if your EC2 instances are running efficiently, if you can save money by turning services off, so on and so forth. So in this case, we're going to be looking at scaling EC2 instances up in AWS. And as we can see here, we can go to cloud. And if we go to scaling actions, this is a collective Turbonomic instance. I don't own all these instances. I own a few of them. But anyway, what's happening right here is in the cloud, whether it's Azure, GCP, or AWS. In this case, it's AWS. Turbonomic is saying, hey, you have a potential of saving upwards of about $6,600 a month if you would take these recommendations and apply them. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to take a Turbonomic recommendation and we're going to be sending it over to EDA, Event-Driven Ansible, which in turn is going to kick off a Ansible playbook. So the first thing we need to do is we need to prep our environment. So the first thing we're going to do is install a webhook into our Turbonomic. Now to do this, you have to do this through the CLI. It's well documented. We're going to go over the documents and we're going to install the webhook. It may seem a little archaic, but right now in this version of Turbonomic, installing a webhook, the only way to do it right now is through the CLI. So let's go over to the CLI and have a look. So here we are at the Turbonomic documentation for installing a webhook onto Turbonomic. Now, what exactly is a webhook? A webhook is a call to an external system using a REST API. So to do this, we have to, when Turbonomic sends information over to our event-driven Ansible, it has to know where it's going to send stuff. It has to know what it's going to be sending. So this is the whole purpose of a webhook. Now, to do the webhook, we have to install the webhook through the CLI. We're going to do this real quick. We're going to export out our address. We're going to export out our user. We're going to export out our password, and we're going to get a JSession ID. This is an authentication token that allows us to interact with Turbonomic at the CLI level. So if you can see right here, if I do echo JSession ID, I have a JSession ID where I can now interact with the Turbonomic system. So in this case, I am ready to install my webhook. So as you can see right here, to install a webhook, we're going to issue a curl command with a post method, and this is the information that we're going to be posting. So what we're saying here is we're all the parameters that Turbonomic is going to want to install the webhook, which is denoted here in the documentation. We're going to provide that in our curl command. But more specifically, what we're interested in is our URL. So we're going to have the URL of my Ansible EDA controller right here. And we're going to tell it what to send. And we're going to say, yes, it's a type of webhook. We're going to give it a name. We're going to give it we're going to call webhook call to EDA server, Norville. And when I issue this command, the webhook will be installed to Turbonomic and will be ready for consumption. So after issuing that command, I can now do a list of all the webhooks on the Turbonomic system with another curl command. So what I can do is I've written me a nice little script here that will go out and list the webhooks for me. So you can see there's 3 webhooks on this Turbonomic system. There's one called webhook to EDA server. There's one called my webhook, which is a stock webhook installed, and there's one called a webhook call to EDA server Norville. So now our webhook is installed. So now what we need to do is identify our targets, define our targets, identify our groups, and create a policy and attach this webhook to a group. So let's go back over to the Turbonomic dashboard and get all this ready. So here we're back at the Turbonomic dashboard. And what I want to do is I want to define my targets, what I'm going to be monitoring. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to settings and I'm going to go to a target configuration. Now I've already installed my targets here, but I'll show you the process of we would actually create new target. And my target name is actually going to be as Red Hat Eco. So if we look at this, what I've done is I've provided my AWS access key and my AWS secret key. Now this is going to go up. This is basically allowing Turbonomic to enter into my AWS account and see what all resources I have defined. So in this case, I only have EC2 instances running. Turbonomic is going to go up there and it's going to say, oh, great, EC2 instances. And it's going to add it to its mix. It's going to start providing recommendations based on AWS analytics and any potential cost savings, any performance um, configurations that we can realize. Right now, that's how simple it is to define our targets. Is basically giving it our access key and our secret key. You would do the same thing up in Azure or GCP. So the next thing we want to do is define a group. So let's go over to settings again and let's look at our groups. Now again, I already have a group defined, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a test group. So what I'm going to say is I'm going to say new group, and I'm interested in virtual machines because these are EC2 instances, and I'm going to say Red Hat Eco, and I'm going to say Norville just because I already have a group out there. And I'm going to say it's going to be dynamic, so that means I can add and take away, and I don't have to go in here and update the groups, or I could make it static if I wanted to. Making it static means I'm responsible for going up in there and taking servers out, putting servers in. Anyway, I'm going to add a filter, and I'm going to filter on my account name. So right here, we have 7 EC2 instances based on my account up in AWS. And we're going to create that group and we can operate collectively on this group. So we already have one out there called Red Hat Eco Norville or Red Hat Eco, which I have created previously. And if we look in there, we can see that there are 7 virtual machines. It's got some other information on there. So now what we can do is we can go in and we can create a policy and we can attach this policy to this group and say what we want to do in that policy. So let's go over and let's look at our policies. So again, a policy is what we want to do when a certain criteria or action or recommendation is provided. So we're going to go in our policies. We're going to create a new policy, and this is going to be an automation policy. And we are going to pick a virtual machine. So I'm naming this policy Send Actions to EDA Red Hat. The scope is my Red Hat Eco EDA group that we just created based on our targets. And there's no schedule. We're not going to do it. There's not going to be a schedule. And what we're going to do is we're going to say to accept this action is going to be manual. Somebody has to go on there and hit yes, do this. When this set of steps becomes bulletproof, we've tested, we're happy with it, then we can put it for automatic. But right now we're going to take it manual. What is it going to do when we accept the action? Is it's going to execute a workflow. Now, what is that workflow? That workflow is the webhook that we installed a few minutes earlier. So if we go in here, we can see that it's going to be a type. When it's a type of cloud scale, it's going to generate actions. It's going to be a manual acceptance. It's not going to do anything before the execution, but during the workflow, for the execution, it's going to do the webhook to EDA server workflow. It's going to call that webhook. Remember, that's what we named our webhook earlier. And then it's going to, after execution, it's going to do nothing. It's just going to return control. So in this case, what's going to happen is at execution, it's going to call our webhook. And then we don't have any constraints. One is scaling. We're ignoring our NVMe. That's something in the cloud that we have to set. So now our policy is set and ready to go. We've created our policy. We've said, hey, when something happens to our Red Hat Eco servers and it's a scaling action, we want to call our webhook, which is our workflow that's going to send all the information over to EDA and then let EDA do what it's going to call the playbook in Ansible, which is going to go out and resize the instance and open up a ServiceNow ticket, a couple of other things we want it to do. But anyway, that's how we create a policy and attach it to our group. So now we should be able to go back to our Turbonomic dashboard. What we want to do is we want to look at our cloud and we want to look at our scaling actions. And these are all the scaling actions that Turbonomic is recommending, but we're only interested in our scaling actions. So we're going to filter this down by my account. So we're going to go to account and we're going to select my account there and we're going to hit apply. And as you can see, we have 7 EC2 instances that Turbonomic is providing some recommendations on. So right here, the first one, something called EDA. The current instance type is a T2 extra large. Turbonomic is saying if you change this to an R5A large, you can save $10 a month. So not exactly significant cost savings, but you get the idea. So what we can do is we can actually look at that. Go into the details. Now remember, we set policies for manual, so nothing's going to happen. But what it's going to do is it's going to send the actions to EDA. Red Hat. And we've got another policy in here to exclude bare metal, but we're gonna send our actions to EDA. So when I hit this execute action, it is going to send the actions to our event-driven Ansible, therefore starting the chain or workflow of what we want to happen in our automation sphere. So to recap, what we have done in Turbonomic is we installed our webhook. We created our target. We had our target configuration, which is basically our AWS credentials. We created a group based on that target and that target account. We created a policy and we attached that policy to the group. So when anytime a scaling actions happens in that group, we're going to have a policy ready to go that we have to manually accept. So please join me in the next video where we put it all together. I'll see you on the next video.